It's time for the history of Capcom! Capcom started life as a subsidiary of the IRM Corporation with the name Capsule Computers Co. Ltd. on May 30th, 1979. The company was born in Osaka, Japan, and would shorten its name to Capcom in June of 1983. However, their first game would release before the name change the same year. It was a coin-op game called Little League. Capcom would enter the industry at a rough time due to the crash of the home console market the same year. In 1985, Capcom would merge with the IRM Corporation, which was now called Sambi. Capcom had a history of being known to port their arcade games to home consoles at a later date, though in 1987 Capcom would release their first game that was made for home consoles exclusively, that being Mega Man. The game didn't blow up the market by any means, but it did gain enough traction to allow the creation of a sequel. Mega Man 2 would go on to propel the franchise so much so that today there's over 25 games in the franchise. In 1987, the arcade game Street Fighter would release to moderate success, and just like Mega Man, it got a sequel that would blow up the franchise. Street Fighter 2 would release on June 10th, 1992, and with it came the concept known as Quarter Circle Forward, or QCF. It's basically the 8-directional movement scheme. They really have a knack for sequels. Into the late 80s, all Capcom games were created in-house. This would change when Akio Saki became the head of development. He would soon start outsourcing development projects to bring new perspectives to the company. This is how the game and manga Strider would come to be, and while the franchise fell flat on its face, it was a great learning experience for the company when it came to outsourcing. Capcom has a great cast of memorable original characters, but that doesn't mean they shied away from working with legendary characters when provided the chance. Capcom is responsible for many of the Legend of Zelda handheld games, including Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy. They also helped develop the Minish Cap and the remake of A Link to the Past. Capcom has had countless deals with other companies to make games, one of which companies is Marvel. In '94, Capcom would begin to work with Marvel on the game X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. After its completion, the company would make one-on-one fighting games with Marvel characters, until Capcom would come up with the idea to put Marvel into their universes. In 1996, Capcom released X-Men vs. Street Fighter in arcades, and today that concept has expanded to become Marvel vs. Capcom. Another brilliant creation would be birthed in '94. Shinji Mikami would start working on a horror game that would release in March of '96. This horror game would end up being called Biohazard in Japan or Resident Evil elsewhere. This game defined the term survival horror game. Capcom has managed to stay relevant in the industry by not only pushing it to great lengths, but by changing the game with brand new ideas and concepts. And that is the history of Capcom. Hello everybody, first off I want to thank my friend Danny for suggesting this video. If you have a topic you want me to cover, tell me down in the comments below. Also, I want to say that what I said about Strider falling flat on its face is very false. The franchise is very much a cult classic, and this confusion was due to me poorly reading my own script. With all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for similar content. See you next time!